Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nottleman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And the sound of whatever that was is makes it time for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I'm Mike Nottleman.
I'm Aaron Berk.
And on today's show, we are going to review some of the auctions that we left with last time. We are going to talk about a couple of auctions that are coming up. We have a Doofus purchase for you, as well as a Pearl of Wisdom to take with you. So, Aaron, let's not delay. Let's get right to it. Let's talk about the world of auction.
Well, so first off, I have to talk about my trip, which started in Orlando, Florida at the FUN show. And I walked that show, and it was probably the busiest show in existence, maybe, possibly. There was 10,000 people who came in the first day. There was over an hour wait at registration to get into a show. I've never seen that before. And then
hard to believe that Florida. Hard to believe that Florida in mid-January would be, a place to be.
Well, it's warm, so there's that. I mean, they do it right. One great advantage is that the show is free to the public. I think all coin shows should be free to the public. I think it's silly that we charge anybody, because we all want as many people as we can to fill up the bourse floor. So to charge is ridiculous. And in fact, the New York International, I think they're now charging $30 a day to get into that show, or it's $30 for the weekend. Not really sure. And but it's a lot, and also you're asking a lot because the show is in Manhattan, so the parking already is atrociously expensive. So not an easy place to get to.
The traffic is bad. The parking is inconvenient, and then you're going to charge them for going in there, and then you want them to come and spend money with you.
Right. And security has gotten so bad there as well that they're actually photographing every single individual. So that obviously brings the price way up because they're taking pictures of every single person that comes in. Part of that is with some thefts that happen and things like that. But the fact is that New York isn't necessarily the safest place to always have a coin show, possibly. I mean, I love New York. I think it's got a lot of great people there. But they had 50,000 people come through FUN. And I know they had an all-time great amount of people at the New York International as well. There's been a lot of talk about a lot of dealers would love it if the two shows combined. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I think it would be really wonderful. I know some of the auction houses have mentioned that they would love to move down to Florida and be part of FUN. And if that happened, most of the dealers wouldn't take tables in New York, because on top of it, the tables there are the most expensive in the entire industry. I had to write a check. We get an inline in a corner, so we get more than most because we have two departments that we're doing, World and Ancient. And I had we have the back page ad as well, which they charge $1,000 for, but the table itself is $8,000. And then another $1,000 for the back page, which is fine. That's advertisement. That's
for how many days?
The show is Thursday through Sunday.
Okay, 5 days.
So
better make money.
4 days. 4 days. And actually the public only comes in on Thursday starting at, I believe, 2:00. And that is for early bird only. And they charge $125 a person. And it was packed. So they're making plenty of money. So, but the fact is that the FUN show, I think, is less than $1,000 for an inline. It's very inexpensive. The hotels are cheaper. The weather's nicer. So, and a lot of the Europeans that come over for New York go to FUN first so they can get in two shows at the same time and, kill two birds with one stone. But it's still, I was gone for 10 days straight. It was a lot of work. And being away from home for that long. So, and you have to remember that the New York International used to be in December. And then the fun show was in January always. But then 9/11 happened, and because the show was at the World Trade Center. And so we had to quickly find a location, which then they didn't get till January. And then it's been a conflict ever since with the fun show. So there are a lot of collectors that end up don't do both shows. There's certain dealers that won't do both shows because they figure like, hey, fun is such a great show. Why do I need to spend, $5,000 to $8,000 plus hotel space and all the expenses, of the,
they
restaurants in New York?
They are taking an awful big chunk right off the top of whatever you're earning there. They better provide you with an awful lot of business.
Right. Plus the assistant district attorney in New York, Bogdanos, he hates the trade, and he has driven everybody out of New York that deals in ancient coins and artifacts, mostly artifacts. So, in fact, you can't offer, used to be able to offer artifacts at the New York show. You're not allowed to offer artifacts at the show anymore because of him. So he has literally driven a lot of the business away. So New York, the people who run New York don't really want us there anyway. So, are not in favor of the trade. It's an ancient and world show. So, it's the biggest one of the year. So it's, if they don't want us and then we got to pay all this money, it's pretty crazy. I will do the show until it doesn't make sense to do the show anymore. I will continue to support wherever they have the show. I'll continue to pay the money, but it's not feasible really for a lot of the collectors and dealers. So, but in any case, that's another story. But it was very active at both shows. The auctions were really, really strong. Monday was Heritage, and we talked a little bit about them. So let's just kind of dive in a little bit on Heritage if you want to bring that page up. Again, they had one collection called the Cambridge collection. It was all gold. And then they had their platinum section, which had a lot of starred coins in it. Prices were really, really strong. And I really think that Heritage is in their own ecosystem. They get prices that no one else gets for slab, because of the slabs and the high designations. That coin, for instance, a few years ago, probably is only a $90,000 coin. And I think if it sold raw, it would still be 90,000. So in the holder, in the right scenario with Heritage, it brings $190+ plus $1,000. Crazy price, but it's a rare coin. So if you want to go to the next slide, we're going to front load this a little bit. We're going to talk more about they were actually the doofuses. So we're going to kind of throw doofuses. So if you want to go to lot 33027. I was actually sitting in the auction when that happened. It's the next slide.
Yeah.
So it hasn't come up yet, by the way.
Oh, duh. Sorry.
No problem. So, so this coin actually brought 440,000 hammer with the juice. That's $539,000. This is a beautiful Chrysos heavy stater. It got the gem mint state 5555, so they consider it the best ever. That's fine with me. It is a great coin. I'd even star it. But the fact of the matter is this is not a $500,000 coin. This coin at best is maybe 100,000, maybe 120 at the top. I was actually sitting next to either Chinese or Japanese. There's three individuals. It was Chinese or Japanese. And they were the underbidder on this coin. And every time they bid, they were laughing because they knew it was a ridiculous price.
Oh my. So do you think they were just running it up?
No, I don't think so. I think they wanted it, but I think this is a fight between the Chinese and Japanese, or all Chinese or all Japanese, because the Chinese, the ultra wealthy Chinese and Japanese, they only want star designated holders. And also, from what I understand, there's a lot of new Bitcoin money people in this slab space that don't care what they spend because it's all funny money to them anyway. So they've made so much money in crypto, they just don't care. They're just like, oh, it's the best, I need it. And that's it. What's really interesting is in the Chinese culture, it's actually a sign of wealth to own one of these Chrysos heavy staters. So, so obviously, if it's the best that NGC is slabbed, they don't care what they pay. And that was obvious across the board. But this is obviously a doofus purchase. I mean, this makes no, and when I say that it's an outlier or that they're in their own ecosystem, I really mean that all individuals that collect ancient coins will take this price with a grain of salt. It's an outlier that doesn't fit into the rest of the market. Excuse me. It's great for Heritage and their consigner. And it's great for NGC because it's going to create a ton of submissions, I think. And because if you looked at this sale, there's a ton of Chrysos, light staters and heavy staters and all the other denominations. They're cornering the market on most of the Chrysos coins that are coming up in high quality because people are hoping for this result. They're hoping to get this runaway price by hopefully getting a star coin. So there's more coins of Chrysos that end up in holders than probably any other coinage, as well as probably the 12 Caesars in gold and silver, as well as popular Greek silver coins as well, and octadrams of Egypt. And that's why you only see these types of coins. And I think in both sales, there was only between Platinum sale and the Cambridge collection, they only had 4 bronze coins in the entire 2 auctions.
I'm quite certain that NGC is just saying, "Oh, bring on the submissions."
Yeah, they're a for-profit company, so this creates a lot of submissions. So if you want to go to the next slide, 34018. These are often undervalued. They're not heavily, these are the Satraps, Pixodorus. This is a Tetradrachm. This is probably the finest known. And we know this because it actually came up in 2007 and 2021, both at Triton. And it brought in both 2007 and 2021, it brought $90,000 hammer each time. So so that tells you something. That tells you that even in 2007, that the price didn't change all the way up to 2021. So really, and that was the record price, right? So by quite a bit. So so somebody in 2021 looked at, well, what did it bring in 2007? They saw 90,000. They said, well, that's a record price. That's no coin has ever brought that price of this type again. So I'm not going to pay over that price. And that's exactly what happened. But it ended up in a holder, 5 years later, less than 5 years later.
5.
And it brings 240,000 hammer. So that doesn't include the fact that, and I don't know if most of you know this or not know this, but Heritage was the last holdout. Now I think it's just stacks. Heritage was one of the last holdouts doing 20% buyer's premium. They now raised it as of January 1st to 22.5%. So it's not like Heritage wasn't making enough, but they decided, hey, everybody else is charging 22.5, so why don't we? I believe the only one who's still doing it 20% is Stacks. So to Stacks' credit, they've held true, but I would imagine at some point they're going to raise theirs too, because
the entire market is charging more than they have a reason to do it for, and okay doing it.
But I think that really, if you're a premier auction house like a C&G, I would say lower your rates to 20%. Because or some of the European auction houses lower your percentage, make them look bad. So
well, if you're truly paying the biggest prices and the biggest buyers, then you should be able to live with, I don't understand why they're constantly jacking the rate on them.
Well, because they're giving away a lot of the buyer's fees to the sellers.
Yes,
that's
the
problem.
Oh, yes.
So I mean, it used to be when I came into business, it was traditional. You got 10% from the sellers as an auction house, and you got 15% from the buyers. So you were making 25% across the board. And then Heritage was really the first one to start doing it. They started giving away the seller's fees. They went to 0, then they went to 105%. They were giving 5% of the buyer's fees plus 100%. So, and they were working on 10%, and they kept having to raise the buyer's fees because they kept giving away so much. I know on US coins, I believe some dealers get 110% for US. So, so they were only working on 10% for the longest time.
Yeah, I think that's a little crazy. I just do. I think that's reach, and it's not necessary.
Well, the auction houses, look, this is the hard truth about auction houses is that, because I did Gemini sales for 12 sales, and the biggest thing was always, are we going to have enough material for our next big auction? And you're competing against all the auctions around the world for that material, and it's a seller's market, so they can decide who they want to sell with. And if they really work hard and pin the auction houses against each other, if you have that type of collection, you can pretty much get the best terms that you can get, right? And okay, but at some point the auction houses have to say no, but they're not. They keep giving.
At some point, the auction houses have got to finally stand up for themselves and say, look, this is no longer about price. This is about doing it with us. It's prestige. And that's the way it's got to swing.
And I just thought about this right now. Like I've talked about L5 before. Some of you may or may not know. It's just an e-sale platform, but they're charging 5% buyer's fees and 0% seller fees, and they're doing really well. They closed their sale yesterday and they did $1 million. So and it's mostly just peer-to-peer selling. There are dealers on there selling, but it's a lot of individuals. Anybody can go on there with a credit card and sell. So so it's obviously there's a need for a low buyer's fee model. People are hungry for it, and so if the auction houses aren't careful, you're going to get other companies like L5 that are going to come up and start taking part of your consignments away from you.
Well, at least they have to make sure that they remain tethered to reality in some way.
I'm just saying, be careful, because eventually, the consumers are going to get upset and they're not going to want to pay these buyers fees, especially in America, where, we're some of the biggest buyers of this material, ancient coins, in particular. And our dollar is weakening every day. And so we're not only fighting the buyer's fees, but we're also fighting the exchange rate. So it's getting tougher and tougher, right? I don't know if the ultra wealthy care as much because they have tons of money. But for the small guy and the middle range collector, it's like they don't even want to buy in Europe anymore because they're so afraid of tariffs, because you either get hit with them or you don't. And if you don't know the nuances of it, you could be paying, hundreds of dollars out of pocket. So, and wasting a lot of time trying to get it taken off. So it's really become a really tough place, a tough environment to want to buy from countries overseas now.
Anything across the borders is now a crapshoot because of the amount of money invested in doing it.
Right. So after Heritage came C&G, Triton 29, and they did 8,963,575 hammer, not including their 22.5%. They sold 99.2% of the items, so it was a very, very strong auction. Again, I didn't think it was Triton. I didn't think Triton was their best Triton sale that they've had in years. I think it was mid-level, but there was a lot of great material in it, and it was strongly supported. What was really cool is there was some really nice collections in there that had a lot of plate coins in books like Seer, which was really good. This coin in particular, the Striated coin, is the very first coin. It brought 9,500 hammer. Strong price, but not outlandish. I would have expected it to go even higher. So I think somebody got a fair deal on it. These used to go a lot cheaper, but sometimes they're test cut on the obverse, and this one is actually pretty nice overall. So, and if you collect, if you're a typeset collector, you're going to need to buy one of these in some denomination. Most people can't afford the stators. Those things go for like $50,000, $60,000+. Trites, again, they're expensive. You're talking, 12 to 15,000. Sometimes you can get them down to like, 4,500, depending. It all depends on quality, but you can get a really small fractional one for not a lot of money. You can get the globular ones, but I actually like the striated ones because that one's actually the first one that actually has something, an image on it or some kind of detail on it. So that makes it really interesting. Next lot 358. We profiled this coin, so let's review it. It brought 5,500 hammer, strong price, but great coin. You see the head of Vespasian coming through on the reverse. These coins were all overstruck on Roman coins. And so they would actually heat the planchet up and then strike the coin, and sometimes the images of the coin underneath. So here you have an image of Vespasian on the reverse of the coin coming through very clearly. And you hardly ever see that. And so Vespasian's one that crushed the earlier rebellion in the first Jewish war. So it's really cool to have a coin, much later, be overstruck over that coin. So that's like pretty cool. It would have even been cooler. Right. So strong price, but great coin. And they do seem to bring this when they do come to this level. And they're really tough to get with that kind of imagery. Sometimes you see it just slightly, but here it's odd. So if you go to the next lot, 595. And this is the Hercules fighting the boar in the fourth labor. This one brought 7,000 hammer. I think that was pretty fair in general for the type. If you collect labors of Hercules, you want that type of reverse. I mean, that's a beautiful coin. You mainly get it on these Roman Egyptian coins, so that's pretty common in general. Yeah, well, it's a dram, which is what those look like from Roman Egyptian Roman rule period. So anyway, so moving on, we went to the beginning of coinage. Now we're going to go to the end of the Roman Empire or the Byzantines, lot 944. And this is the Constantine the 11th Stavraton, and it brought 60,000 hammer. This is a very important coin. They're not pretty, just like the beginning coins aren't pretty. The end coins aren't pretty either. So, but you have Christ on the obverse. You can see the halo. You always know it's Christ because you see the halo. See the halo head on the obverse of the coin, and on the reverse is the king. So it's always Christ first at this period and king second. And so they were actually melting down the silver at the end, striking coins like this to pay mercenaries before they were going to be slaughtered, which was basically what happened. So so that was a pretty fair price, I think. I think that they had been going higher in some cases, but I think that was kind of where I would expect it to land. And so I think somebody got a really decent deal. It's a beautiful piece, and congratulations to the new owner on that. Then there's auctions that whole week. You had the New York sale. That was Thursday, January 15th. A lot about lot 1086. And this was the Menorah coin. And when I got to New York, right before I got to New York, actually, what's that?
I couldn't see it. I couldn't get to the link.
Oh, okay. Just go into the left corner there on that page and type in 1086 and it'll come up. Oh, it's actually right there. It's the first coin. Go back a page. It's right there, the far left on the top.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I sorted it so that it would come up first. So anyway, this is the that's the Stax Bauer one. You're on the wrong one.
Right.
Sorry,
okay.
My bad.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
so it's this one.
Yeah.
And 1086.
So you want to go to the New York sale. Yeah, we're going to come to the Stax sale in a second.
Okay.
Just excuse our difficulties for a moment as we get to lot 1086.
Where's the New York?
So a little bit on these Menorah coins. The Menorah coins are extremely rare. They hardly ever come up, and they're often faked. Right before I got to New York, there was two coming up, one in the New York sale, one in the Stax sale, as we see here on screen. And before I got to New York, right before, I was told by somebody in Israel that to stay away from the New York sale one, We profiled it on the last podcast. It's the one that has a hole in it. Mike will get to it at some point. But basically, the coin supposedly been floating around Israel and left without an export.
Who was
And
who was the auction house?
It's the New York sale. It's right in my if you go to the podcast page, it's linked right there.
House? No, I couldn't get into
The
that
New York
link.
sale.
I was trying to say. 1086. Try this.
It works fine for me when I hit the link.
All right, I'll try it one more time.
If you go into the New York,
yeah,
I just hit the link and it took me right to the page. No problem.
1086. I don't know why.
Yep. Just click that link.
Yep.
There you go. Okay. Right. So anyway, so I was told that this coin was probably going to get confiscated. The Israeli Authority had reached out to Homeland Security in New York, and they of course came and confiscated the coin. So when I actually went to go view the New York sale, this coin had already been confiscated by the authorities. What's nice is they didn't do it the day of the auction. They did it the Sunday before the auction. This auction was on several days later. It was on Tuesday night, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday night. I think Wednesday night, and it had already been pulled on Sunday, which is nice of them. Normally they do it the day of just to make more waves. But I talked to the head of the auction house, and he was told that it came from a 50-year-old collection in Europe. But obviously, you can't believe everything that consigners sometimes say. I would imagine they had photographic evidence that this coin was floating around Israel more recently. And if it was floating around Israel and was brought to Israel to be sold, coming from Europe, then they'll straighten that out if it's all true. But in the meantime, it was confiscated and it went back to Israel. So in any case, moving on to the Stacks one, which we've already seen. That one actually, I didn't think it brought crazy money. I thought that was pretty fair. I know who bought it, and he had a little bit of competition, but in general, I think that it was a good deal. So again, these things don't come up very often. This one was obviously clean, came from an old collection. Actually, here in Chicago, I didn't know the collector. It's funny how like people are in your backyard and you don't even know that they collect, but it is what it is. I think the guy, he was a rabbi and he was probably going straight to Israel and buying, is my guess, from a long time ago. But the sale was very, very good, and prices not crazy. I think in line from where they were supposed to be. But I know that the Menorah coin here was seen by David Hendon and authenticated and shown to be fine. So that was my impression of the auctions and New York in general. And I think that I think it was really strong. Business was great in both places, and I feel very confident in the market right now. I think it's still very, very healthy at the moment. So, and there could be a lot of different factors for that. But anyway, so upcoming auctions, not a lot going on right now, but I thought I would just point out two quick ones. In Asia, Mike, you're on the Steve album, that's the wrong auction catalog. So no, that's CNG. It's going to be the next link. It's one before that. I think, let me see, maybe I had it wrong. No, I had it right. If you hit my link again, you'll bring it up.
So which one?
It's Auction World in Japan.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, yep, that one.
Okay.
So small little auction in Japan, all slabbed coins, but you can get some deals here. And if you run your mouse by the yen there, it actually shows you the price in US dollars and euros and things like that. So don't be scared off by the amounts, because it's a devalued currency, or not, it hasn't been devalued yet. And so they run very high. So when you're bidding, you're sometimes bidding in the millions, and it sounds like
they are not.
Yes, exactly. But these are good places to find some deals sometimes. So I know a lot of people who have bid at this auction house and gotten some great deals. So don't chase anything, obviously, but and obviously you're going to have to import it in, but but it's a great place to find deals. So you may want to check that one out. That one is going to be this one's going to be February 1st. So it's just around the corner. So the next auction, which you were on, which was the CNG electronic auction 603. That one's going to be February 4th. Okay, you can start there. And I just picked out one coin. There's a lot of really cool coins in the sale, but lot 303 is really cool. I love this type because actually it's a Greek coin minted in Cilicia, uncertain Cilicia in the 4th century BC. It's a 12 stater oval, only weighs 0.62 grams. But look at the reverse of that coin. That is the Egyptian god Bes. And so you're wondering, like, why is there an Egyptian god on a Greek coin? And it's because the ancient Cilician coinage, they featured the god Bes primarily due to the widespread regional popularity of that deity as a protective figure, as it did in Egyptian culture. And during the Persian period, Bes was adopted across the Levant and Cilicia as a guardian against evil, bringing joy and protection to the home. So a lot of Egyptian gods ended up mixing with Greek and Roman later. And so here's a great example where you see, if you're an antiquity guy like me, Bes is very common. We get a lot of amulets and things like that from, all the way back to the, Middle and New Kingdom, from 1500 BC and earlier with the god Bes. And then you can see it in Roman times and here even in the Greek times. So very cool little tiny coin, but with a lot of really cool history. And actually artistic merit is really fantastic on this coin too. I mean, that's really well done. So check out the CNG auction. I think worth checking out. It's pretty cool in that regard. So, but again, it's kind of quiet right now. There's not a whole lot going on. We just finished the auction season. The rest of the big auction season is not going to really start until probably March, with the spring sales. And so there's, they're all kind of like probably getting their catalogs ready right now, and doing photographing and getting it all set. So you're going to see a lot of e-sales right now. Doesn't mean that there's not coins to buy. There are, especially for most of us who can't always afford to, buy out of the big boy auctions. So, we're getting run out because of the pricing.
Isn't this traditionally a slightly slower time of year for that kind of stuff anyway?
Well, we just finished, basically 10 days straight of shows and auctions. And so I think everybody needs a break at this point. Yeah. And whether we want to, and whether we want to or not,
February.
And whether we want to or not, it's storming right now. It's Sunday, the 25th of January, and it's like a snow globe outside right now, and that's across the country. So it's getting bombarded with blizzards or cold weather, and so it's a good reason to be inside. But also, that's what gives you time to refresh as well as look at e-sales. If you so be.
Well, the great part about the snow globe part is that we actually expect it. We live in Chicago. We live in a winter climate, right? It's the poor people in Tennessee and like Maryland,
Texas,
and that are getting hammered right now by snow. It's like,
well, yeah, I know my mom's down in Texas, and I know somebody in Houston, and the sleet and the rain turn to ice, and when that happens, they shut down because they don't have any salt or sand or anything.
No equipment,
so they can't drive
out, and there's a layer of ice on top of everything.
Yeah, here it's no big deal. I mean, I can go out on the main roads and it'll be fine, so
thanks to the giant,
it'll all be gone. But that's why our roads always suck here too, because we put so much salt down, it destroys the roads, and the plows are scraping against it and destroying the roads. And so it's just very harsh on the roads
and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just great for everybody.
If you want to know why Florida and California and places like that have great roads all the time, it's because they don't have to go through the weather and
Well, yeah, the freeze thaw,
abrasiveness.
the freeze thaw in and of
Right.
itself will ruin your roads.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, it brings me to our educational. I thought this is a slow time and there's a lot of e-sales. And so a coinage we don't really think about too often is the Mauryan Empire out of India. And so if you want to bring up the slideshow, Mike, we can kind of go into that. Do you want me to add it for you?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Maybe go to the, maybe go to the first slide before I bring it up.
Oh, that might be a happy thing. Hey, this is just a train wreck today.
If you want to go to the top, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to add it to the stage.
I apologize.
There we go. All right. No problem. No problem. No problem. It's the seasonal blues.
It's something. I'm gonna tell you that.
So the Mauryan Empire silver punch coins. So it's these are coins you see in almost every e-sale quite a bit. These are little silver square coins. They, there's ones that are different shapes and sizes, but I'm just focusing on the little square ones today. And they're punched with all kinds of.
I need to ask a question.
Go ahead.
How similar are these two cobs?
Not like cobs at all.
Okay. Because they kind of look like cobs, which are, these big hunks of metal that have, incused prints in them.
Right, but that's from different mints marking them, correct?
I think so.
So on these coins, they don't put any kings or emperors of the time. They put symbols on them, and they punch them with different symbols that have different meanings. So it wasn't about trying to say anything about gods or anything like that. It was more just about society. So if you go to the next slide. So this is the part of India where the Mauryan Empire was. You can see in the upper left where you have the Seleucid Empire. So you can see where that kind of buds up to it. China's up to the right there across the mountains where you don't see it. But basically, this was the Mauryan Empire at its full expansion. So a lot of these coins do come out of India and Pakistan and places like that. So if you go to the next slide. So the way that they actually produce these is they had a melting refinery. They took raw silver and then they made them into large sheets. And then they cut those sheets into longer strips. And then they would strike them and then cut them into pieces. And then they would punch them with symbols. They may have struck the coins on the sheet and then cut them from there. That's probably more likely what happened. And there was a couple. There was a couple of noted hoards at the time. One in 2007 that had about 30 pounds worth of 14 kilograms worth of silver. Famous one, Texila, which was between 1924 and 45. And then there was a bunch of regional finds as well. One not mentioned is my dad actually got a hoard of these in, I want to say it was like 90 or 91, maybe 92. And we had something like, I don't know. We must have had like several 100 pounds of these that came out of a well hoard, supposedly, at the time. So they're very common, but they're very cool for what they are. If you want to go to the next slide, Mike. So the Karsapana was the denomination of the coin, and composition was mostly silver. between 750 and 0.850 fine, and it weighed between 3.4 and 3.5. But, obviously there's variations of that weight that it would happen. They did mostly irregular squares, rectangles, and then these standardized ones that you see on the right is mostly what you see in the later periods and in vast quantities. There's also, earlier there were bars that have a couple of stamps on them, and some of them were blank. So they were almost like silver ingots as well. And it just goes to show, and it had a lot of Greek influence because then the Bactrians came in and there was some mixing there going on. And so, that I believe that they were probably trading with the Greeks, and that's why they needed the silver coinage. If you go to
the ones on the right-hand side, these I recognize. These I've
yeah,
seen
because they're in our
bowls.
Yeah, they're in our junk bowls all the time.
Right.
Yeah,
all
that's
the
right.
time.
Because it's a very cheap way to get silver in ancient cultures. So if you go to the next slide, just some of the symbols and what they meant. You had the sun symbol, a crescent, tree, elephant, a bowl, a wheel, a bull's head, and a swastika. And then another one that's really interesting, you get these three people. And there's a lot of different meanings for what scholars think it means, that it might be a ritual dancer celebrating fertility and prosperity. Others see it as a political symbol of unity. Some think it's simply a treasure control mark. What's clear is that it's Mauryan money. Wasn't about faces. It was about ideas, community, order, and divine favor. So, the ones with elephants actually are really popular. Those go for good money. You often will find these in quantities that you can buy. But usually when you find them in individual lots, it's like this, where you can see the three figures really well, or you see a really nice bull, or you see a really nice elephant. Those actually will go for good money. But good money means they might go for like $100. Right. So, and the cheapest ones go for like, $10 to, to $40. So it's a great little thing to collect for not a lot of money. If you go to the next slide, our last slide, you can see like C&G is offering one in the e-sale we just went over. It's estimated $100 that has the three figures. And then these are some that just closed not within the last year. And there's gazillions of them. So this one at the bottom there, that one brought $16. And the one at the top right has a bull there and some figures that brought a whole lot, $25. So, and then the book that most people use, there are some other ones, but this was the main one, is this punch mark coinage of the Indian subcontinent. So you can find these online anywhere. And so again, I like to pick out obscurities that you wouldn't think about collecting, but these are really cool just to own a few. They don't cost much. It's a great place to get people who are just getting into collecting. If you're looking for a silver coin that's not expensive, this is right up your alley. And it's all about the type of symbols that you're going to go for. So, so check it out. And again, these are the kinds of things you can find all over the place. So it's, and you can even sometimes buy them in bulk. So, so anyway, so that's my short education